You know that moment when someone says something in a half-joking, half-serious tone, and you can't tell if it's real or if you're about to embarrass yourself by believing it? Yeah, that was the night everything changed between me and Liam. We'd been best friends since junior year of high school. Football team, late-night fast food runs, sleepovers where we stayed up playing FIFA and talking about girls. Well, he talked about girls. I nodded along and kept my crush on him buried so deep even I could almost ignore it. We stayed close through college, moved to the same city after graduation, and eventually got a 2-bedroom apartment together to save money. Everyone thought we were basically married. Jokes were made constantly, by friends, by coworkers, even his mom once. Liam always just laughed it off. I did too, on the outside. Inside was another story. It was a Saturday night. We'd just come back from our usual dive bar a few blocks down. Liam was buzzed. Tequila buzzed. The kind of drunk that makes him talk more than usual, gets him in his head a little. He'd been through a messy breakup a couple months before, and even though he pretended like he was fine, I knew better. I was nursing a beer on the couch, half watching whatever movie Netflix had auto-played. Liam was sprawled next to me, legs open like always, his head tipped back over the armrest. One of his socks was missing. Typical. He always managed to lose one somewhere in the apartment by the end of the night. You ever think, he said, his words a little slurred, that maybe we were supposed to end up with the people who actually get us? I raised an eyebrow. Deep thoughts for someone who did 4 tequila shots in 20 minutes. He laughed, his grin lazy. No, I mean it, like, what if the right person was just there the whole time? I paused. You talking about your ex or? No, he cut in, turning his head to look at me. His eyes were glassy but focused. Not her. There was a long silence. Then he said it. You know I've always wanted this, right? He laughed after saying it, but it was the kind of laugh you use to deflect, not dismiss. What? I asked slowly. What's this? This, he said, waving a hand vaguely between us. Us. You. Me. This whole thing. I mean, I know I act like a dumbass, but I notice stuff. How easy everything is with you. How I don't have to pretend. I blinked. My heart was somewhere in my throat. Liam! He sat up suddenly, facing me. I'm serious, man. I know I joke around a lot, but I'm not playing right now. You're drunk, I said, because it was the only thing I could say without my voice cracking. Yeah, he admitted, but not that drunk. I've wanted to say this for a long time. I just didn't know how. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something in his expression I'd never let myself hope for. Desire. Honesty. A little fear. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just sat there, trying to breathe like my whole world hadn't tilted on its axis. The thing about moments like that, they don't go away when the night ends. They stay. They hang in the air like smoke, even when the fire's out. I barely slept. I laid there in my room, staring at the ceiling, hearing the occasional shuffle of Liam turning over in the next room, wondering if he remembered what he said. Wondering if he meant it. Wondering what the hell I was supposed to do now. This wasn't a casual, one-night weirdness. This was Liam. My best friend. My person. And hearing him say he'd thought about this, about us, wasn't something I could laugh off, even if part of me wanted to pretend it didn't happen just to keep things normal. But it happened. And he wasn't joking. The next morning I walked into the kitchen around 10. Liam was already there, hunched over the counter, pouring cereal into a bowl with the kind of concentration that only a hangover can cause. He was wearing the same hoodie from last night, sleeves pushed up, hair still messy. He looked up when he heard me. Morning. His voice was casual, but his eyes flicked to mine quickly, then away, like he wasn't sure if we were talking about it. I grabbed a mug, filled it with coffee, took a slow sip. You feelin' it? He gave a small smirk. Like I got tackled by a semi. That tequila was evil. I nodded. Yeah, you got pretty loose there. He froze for a split second. Not enough for most people to notice, but I saw it. That tiny hitch in his movement. He remembered. Yeah, he said, quieter. Then, after a beat, sorry if I said anything stupid. I set my mug down. You didn't. He looked at me again. Really looked. Okay. The silence after that wasn't uncomfortable, but it was loaded. I didn't want to push, and I didn't want to pretend, so I sat at the table with my coffee while he ate his cereal in slow, deliberate spoonfuls. Every so often, his eyes would flick up to me, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Finally, I broke. Do you remember what you said last night? He didn't answer right away. Just stared at the spoon in his hand. Then, yeah, I exhaled, not sure if I was relieved or panicked. Did you mean it? He looked up, his jaw clenched slightly. Yeah. No hesitation this time. No laughing. Just the truth. Okay, I said, because that was all I could manage. Liam leaned back in his chair, setting his bowl aside. I've been thinking about it for a while, he said, his voice steady now. I just didn't know if it was real, or if I was just attached to the comfort of us. But last night, I was sitting next to you and I realized I didn't want to keep wondering. I stared at him. He went on. You've been here for everything. You know me better than anyone. You've seen me at my worst. And it's never weird. It's never hard. It's just good with you. My chest tightened. You've got a funny way of showing it, saying it drunk and laughing after. He winced. I panicked. I didn't want to make things awkward, but I also didn't want to take it back. I stood up, poured more coffee just to keep my hands busy. What does that mean, though? You want to try something? Liam hesitated. I want to know what it feels like to stop pretending I don't want you. The mug nearly slipped from my hand. We stood there in the kitchen, two grown men with years of shared memories between us. And now this wall of uncertainty and emotion we'd never climbed before. I don't want to mess this up, I said. You won't, he replied, stepping closer. I promise. And when his fingers brushed mine as he reached for the coffee pot, neither of us pulled away. That day passed in a strange kind of quiet. We didn't talk about it again. Not directly, but the air between us had changed. It wasn't uncomfortable, just dense. Like everything unsaid was floating just beneath the surface, waiting to break through. Liam stayed in the apartment all day, which was rare for a weekend. He usually disappeared to the gym or met up with his brother for brunch, but not that Sunday. He hung around, shirtless and sweatpants, playing video games, scrolling his phone, occasionally glancing at me like he was checking if I was still there, mentally, emotionally, not just physically. I kept myself busy, laundry, dishes, half watching sports on mute. I caught myself staring at him more than once, and I caught him catching me more than once too. By dinner, something had shifted again. It wasn't so much tension anymore. It was gravity. After we ate, some frozen Trader Joe's stir-fry neither of us really tasted, we ended up back on the couch. Not unusual. But this time, we sat closer. Liam had his legs up, knees bent, feet tucked under him. I sat normally at first, then slowly leaned into the cushions until our arms were touching. Neither of us moved. It was silent except for the movie playing, some action flick with a plot we weren't paying attention to. My heart was a drum in my chest, and when I shifted slightly to get more comfortable, my arm pressed against his. He didn't flinch. He turned his head a little, looked at me. I didn't look away. You sure you're okay? He asked. I nodded, then said, Are you? He smirked. Honestly, no. Because of last night? He nodded slowly. Because I meant it. And because now that I said it out loud, I can't take it back. I took a breath. I'm not asking you to. His eyes searched mine. What are you asking me then? I didn't know how to say it, not in a way that didn't feel too big or too soon, but I wanted him. Not just in the way I'd always wanted him, but now, for real, for something. I guess, I paused. I'm asking if this is something you actually want. Sober, awake, right now. Liam's voice was quiet. Yeah, I do. My throat went dry. You scared? He asked. A little. Me too. Then he did it. He reached out and rested his hand on my thigh. Not high up, not overtly sexual. Just there, solid, warm. Intentional. I looked down at it, then back at him. He moved a little closer. And then he kissed me. It wasn't clumsy. It wasn't hesitant. It was slow, deliberate, and way more careful than I thought someone like Liam was capable of. His lips tasted faintly like the lime LaCroix he'd been sipping earlier. His hand moved from my thigh to my side, gripping gently like he needed to anchor himself. I kissed him back. For a long time, nothing else mattered. When we finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. That wasn't a joke, he whispered. I know, I said, my voice a little shaky. And I'm not laughing. We didn't talk much that night. After the kiss, we just sat there, legs tangled, the TV still flickering in front of us, forgotten. Liam leaned back against the couch, pulling me with him so I ended up resting against his chest. His fingers moved in small, lazy circles on my arm, like he didn't even realize he was doing it. I should have been freaking out. I wasn't. I should have been overthinking everything. What this meant, what tomorrow would look like, whether he'd wake up full of regret. But instead, I just felt calm. Like something I'd been waiting for, without even realizing it, had finally clicked into place. Eventually, we both drifted off. I don't know who fell asleep first, but I woke up around 3 a.m. to find his hand still resting against my side, his breathing slow and steady. I didn't move. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Liam was in the kitchen, shirtless again, this time in joggers and messy hair. He looked up when I walked in, and for a second, everything inside me froze, waiting for the shoe to drop, for the awkwardness, the backpedaling, the inevitable, yeah, that was a mistake. Instead, he smiled. Hey, he said casually. Coffee? Yeah, I said, a little cautious. Thanks. He poured a mug and slid it across the counter toward me. Then he leaned back, crossed his arms over his chest, and studied me for a second. You okay? I think I'm still waiting for you to say it was all just a drunk mistake, he snorted. Yeah, no, not happening. I took a sip. So, what now? Liam shrugged, but there was a twitch in his expression, like the question hit deeper than he expected. I don't know, I've never done this before. This? He gave me a look. You know what I mean. You've never kissed a guy before? He shook his head. No, but I've thought about it, mostly with you, if I'm being honest. My breath caught. You ever wonder why I never stayed with anyone long? He asked. Even my last girlfriend? It's like, I couldn't fully give myself to someone when I felt like I wasn't being honest. I stared at him. And now? Liam walked around the counter slowly, stopping when he was right in front of me. He reached out, brushing his fingers over my jaw, gentle. Now I don't want to lie about it anymore, he said. But I also don't want to mess this up. I mean, we live together. You're my best friend. I don't want to make this weird or ruin what we have. It's already different, I said quietly. But it doesn't have to be weird. He tilted his head. You'd be okay if this turned into something real? Would you? I asked back. Liam didn't hesitate. Yeah. And that was it. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just some experiment for him. It wasn't curiosity. It was real. He leaned in and kissed me again, slower this time, more certain. And this time, I didn't have a single doubt about kissing him back. The next week was like walking a tightrope between normal and new. We didn't label anything. There were no long discussions or dramatic declarations, but something had shifted, undeniably. It was in the way Liam looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. The way his hand brushed mine when we sat next to each other on the couch and didn't pull away. The way he said goodnight by lingering in my doorway, just a little longer than necessary, like he was waiting to be asked in. We hadn't done more than kiss. Not yet, but those kisses were enough to scramble my brain for hours. Every time his lips touched mine, everything else fell away. Rent, work, the weird logistics of what we were doing. It all blurred into white noise. Still, there was a question hanging in the air, unspoken, but ever present. What are we now? It came to a head one night while we were doing something completely mundane, folding laundry. Liam was standing by the dryer, pulling out warm clothes and tossing them to me on the bed to fold. He threw a hoodie and missed. It hit me in the face. "Smooth," I muttered. He grinned. "Sorry, my aim's off when I'm distracted." "Yeah? What's distracting you?" He looked at me for a second, his smile fading a little. Not gone, just softer. "You." I froze, holding a pair of socks in my hand. "What about me?" "I keep thinking about you," he said, voice low now. Not in a vague way. Like, in a, I want to figure out what this is way? I dropped the socks. "Oh," I said, because apparently my brain had shut down to a single-syllable vocabulary. Liam stepped closer, holding my gaze. "I know we haven't really talked about it, but I think we should. Not because I need some label, but because I don't want you thinking this is just casual for me. It's not." I sat down on the edge of the bed, letting that sink in. "Do you know what you want?" I asked. "I want you," he said without hesitation. "I want to keep waking up, knowing you're in the next room. I want to kiss you without wondering if it's going to screw things up. I want to figure this out. With you." I blinked, my heart going 100 miles an hour. "Okay," I said. "Okay?" he echoed. "Yeah," I smiled. "I want all of that too." He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for days. "Cool," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "So I guess we're dating now?" I laughed. That's the worst coming out story ever. Liam grinned and pushed me back on the bed, crawling over me and kissing me like he had something to prove. Like now that it was out in the open, he didn't have to hold anything back. We made out for a long time. Clothes rumbled between us, the laundry completely forgotten. His hands found mine and laced our fingers together, and it felt like something had clicked into place. Not forced, not sudden, just right. Liam stayed in my bed that night. It wasn't planned. We weren't even trying to make it a thing. After the laundry was half done and half scattered across the room, we just ended up there. Him on his back, me curled into his side, one of his arms draped across my waist like it belonged there. It didn't feel like some huge, dramatic shift. It felt weirdly normal, comfortable. His chest rose and fell slowly. I wasn't sure if he was asleep or just quiet. I stared at the ceiling, my brain refusing to shut down, thinking about all the years we'd known each other, how this version of us had always seemed impossible, or at least unlikely, like a fantasy I'd forced myself to forget. And now, it was happening, for real. At some point, I guess I drifted off too, because the next thing I knew, sunlight was bleeding through the blinds, and Liam was still there, still holding me, still asleep. I watched him for a while, not in a creepy way. Okay, maybe a little. But there was something about seeing him like that, vulnerable and relaxed and here, that made my chest tighten. His hair was a mess, mouth slightly open. He looked stupidly good for someone who hadn't even brushed his teeth yet. Eventually, he stirred, eyes blinking open slowly. "Mornin'?" he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. "Hey." He looked at me for a long second before saying, "You still here?" I smiled. You're the one in my bed, dude. He chuckled, low and gravelly. Right. There was a beat of silence. Not awkward, just heavy. Then he said, I don't want this to be a one-time thing. I reached up, brushed his hair off his forehead. It's not. He nodded, like he needed to hear it out loud. Okay, good. We spent most of that Sunday just existing. He made breakfast, burnt pancakes and scrambled eggs that somehow tasted amazing because he couldn't stop smiling. We stayed in our pajamas, lounged on the couch, and ignored our phones. At some point, he leaned over and kissed me mid-sentence while I was talking about a dumb show we both hated, just because he could. Just because it was us now. Around 3 p.m., he asked, You think we should tell people? I shrugged. Who? Like your mom? Or your gym bro who thinks we're secretly dating anyway? He laughed. Especially him. We could, I said. Or we could wait. Just figure this out without all the noise for a while. Liam looked thoughtful. I like that. We sat in silence for a bit. Then he said, Hey, do you think it's always been like this? Between us? I didn't answer right away. Because, yeah, I did think that. I thought we'd been circling this for years, brushing against it, pretending it wasn't there. But now? It's always been something, I said finally. We just didn't know what to call it. He nodded slowly. Well, I know what I want to call it now. Yeah? My boyfriend. I raised an eyebrow. Wow. Didn't think you were the label guy. I wasn't, he said, leaning in again. Until it was you. By the end of that week, we were fully in it. We weren't rushing to post selfies or tell every friend we'd ever had. It wasn't like that. It was quieter, simpler, a subtle shift in the way we existed around each other. I don't even think we said boyfriend again for a few days, but everything we did said it for us. Little things. Like how Liam started brushing his teeth in my bathroom instead of his. Or how his hoodies kept mysteriously ending up in my closet. Or how he'd put his hand on my thigh when we watched movies. Not trying anything, just holding me there like I was his. The first time he kissed me in public wasn't planned. We were at a house party, one of our mutual friends from college. Half the room was drunk, the other half pretending not to be. Someone brought up relationships, and before I could say anything, Liam just reached for my hand. I looked at him, a little surprised, and he shrugged like it was no big deal. Then he leaned in and kissed me. Quick, soft, barely even a second. But it was enough. Enough for a few heads to turn. Enough for the guy across the room who'd once joked about us being like an old married couple to go dead silent. Liam didn't seem to care. He just looked at me after and said, About time, right? It was then I realized something. This wasn't going to crash and burn. This wasn't temporary. It didn't feel like some messy experiment or something we'd regret later. It felt easy, like we'd been moving toward this for years without knowing it. Back at the apartment later that night, we lay in bed, limbs tangled. His hand rested on my chest, thumb moving slowly back and forth. I was scared, he said suddenly. I turned my head. Of what? That if I told you how I felt, it'd mess everything up. I gave a soft laugh. You did mess everything up. He raised an eyebrow. In the best way possible. He smiled and buried his face in my neck. I don't want to go back to how it was. You won't have to. There was a long pause. Then, muffled against my skin, he said, I think I love you. My breath hitched. I know it's early, he added quickly. I'm not trying to be weird about it, but I do. I think I've loved you for a long time. I just didn't know what it was. I turned onto my side, facing him. You're not the only one. His eyes softened. Yeah. We didn't need anything else after that. No fireworks, no big dramatic promises, just us, in our bed, finally on the same page. And when he kissed me again, slow, warm, familiar, I knew we were exactly where we were supposed to be. Because he might have laughed when he said it that night, but he wasn't joking. And now, neither was I.